The massive space station hung in the darkness like a crystal flower. Its walls were made of living light that pulsed gently with each heartbeat of its builders. Inside the main chamber, beings from across the galaxy gathered for an important meeting. Today, they would decide if humans could join their peaceful community. Ambassador Hyun-woo walked through the halls with calm steps. His dark suit looked simple compared to the flowing robes and shimmering forms around him. He carried a small briefcase that held Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council. After 300 years of space travel, humanity finally felt ready to meet their neighbors. The council chamber was enormous. Floating platforms held representatives from dozens of species. The Valari looked like walking diamonds, their crystal bodies catching and bending light into rainbow patterns. They spoke in musical tones that sounded like wind chimes. The Nephim appeared as clouds of colored gas that shifted and swirled as they moved. Their voices came from everywhere and nowhere at once. The Tauran delegation sat in tanks of blue water, their fish-like bodies graceful and elegant. Elder Myleth of the Valari called the meeting to order. Her crystal form glowed brighter as she spoke. Today we review the application from species designation Human, planet designation Earth, system designation Sol. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a blue and green world, spinning slowly in space. To human eyes, it looked beautiful and peaceful. To the assembled aliens, it looked like a nightmare. According to our survey data, Elder Myleth continued, this planet rates as a Class 12 Deathworld, the highest danger classification in our system. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even the Nephim, who rarely showed emotion, swirled faster in their containers. A Class 12 rating meant a planet so dangerous that most galactic species would die within hours of landing on its surface. Counselor Zareth of the Nephim spoke first. His gaseous form turned a worried shade of purple. The atmospheric readings showed dangerous levels of oxygen, 21%. That concentration would cause fires to burn out of control. The gravity reading is concerning, too, added Counselor Tidal of the Tauran. His gills fluttered nervously. Nearly 10 meters per second squared. That force would crush most of our people. Hyun-woo listened quietly as they read through Earth's statistics. To them, his homeworld sounded like hell itself. They talked about the deadly weather patterns that could drop temperatures below freezing, or raise them above the boiling point of some alien blood. They mentioned the violent storms that threw lightning across the sky and winds that could knock down trees. The seismic activity alone should make this planet uninhabitable, said Elder Myleth. Yet according to their application, billions of these humans lived there. The hologram changed to show images of Earth's wildlife. A lion stalked across African plains, a great white shark cut through ocean waters. A grizzly bear stood on its back legs, towering above the camera. These creatures share the planet with humans, Counselor Zareth said, his purple color deepening to almost black. Predators with fangs, claws, and incredible strength. How does any intelligent species survive alongside such monsters? Hyun-woo cleared his throat politely. If I may address the council? Elder Myleth's light dimmed slightly, which among her people meant nervousness. You may speak, Ambassador. Thank you. I understand your concerns about Earth. Yes, it can be dangerous, but it is also beautiful. The storms you mention bring rain that feeds our crops. The predators you fear help keep nature in balance. We have learned to live with our world, not fight against it. But how? Asked Counselor Tidal. How do you survive creatures that could kill you with ease? Hyun-woo smiled, not knowing that his expression terrified half the beings in the room. Humans showed their teeth when happy, which most species only did when threatening to attack. We are careful. We watch for danger. We work together. When I was young, my friends and I played games that taught us to move quietly and hide quickly. We called them tag and hide and seek. The aliens exchanged worried glances. To them, this sounded like military training for children. What kind of species taught their young combat skills disguised as play? You train your offspring for warfare? Elder Mylith asked. Oh no. Hyunwoo laughed, which made his teeth show even more. These were just games, fun activities. Children everywhere on Earth play them. This news made things worse. If human children played war games for fun, what did their actual soldiers do? Tell us about your military, Counselor Zaref demanded. Our military protects people and keeps peace. They train hard and follow strict rules. They only fight when they must. And how often must they fight? Hyunwoo thought for a moment. Well, there are always small conflicts somewhere. Humans do not always agree with each other, but we have not had a major war in over 50 years. The aliens fell silent. Most species in the galaxy had not fought wars in thousands of years. The idea that humans still had regular conflicts, even small ones, was deeply disturbing. Elder Mylith spoke slowly. Ambassador Hyunwoo, your species shows many positive qualities. Your technology is adequate. Your desire for peace seems genuine. However, your world and your nature make us concerned. I understand, Hyunwoo replied calmly. His calm acceptance of potential rejection chilled the council members even more. A truly peaceful species would beg, plead, or show emotion. This human just stood there, ready for whatever decision they made. It suggested a level of emotional control that could only come from constant exposure to danger. We need time to discuss this application, Elder Mylith announced. Please wait in the guest quarters while we deliberate. Hyunwoo bowed politely and left the chamber. As soon as the doors closed behind him, the council erupted in worried discussion. They are too dangerous, Counselor Zaref said firmly. A species that plays war games as children and accepts rejection without emotion cannot be trusted. But their application shows genuine desire for peace, Counselor Tidal argued. Perhaps we are judging too harshly. Look at their world, Elder, Mylith said, gesturing to the hologram. It has shaped them into something we cannot understand. What peaceful species evolves alongside such predators? What gentle people develop the emotional control this ambassador shows? The debate continued for hours. Some argued for giving humans a chance. Others insisted they were too dangerous to trust. In the end, fear won over hope. When Hyunwoo returned to the chamber, Elder Mylith delivered the verdict. The Galactic Council appreciates your application. However, we must respectfully decline human membership at this time. Your species may remain in your home system. Trade will be permitted, but only in neutral space. No human vessels may enter Council territory. Hyunwoo nodded once. I understand. Thank you for considering our application. He turned and walked away without argument, anger, or any visible emotion. His calm departure left the council members, more convinced than ever that they had made the right choice. They had no idea that their fear of humanity would soon become their salvation. 6 months after humanity's rejection, the galaxy faced its darkest hour. Deep space monitoring stations along the outer rim had gone silent one by one. At first, the Galactic Council thought it was just equipment failure, old sensors breaking. Down was common in the empty space between star systems, but then entire star systems stopped responding. The first real alarm came from the Helix research station. Dr. Quilnar, a brilliant Valari scientist, sent a desperate message before her. Station went dark. Her crystal form had been flickering with fear as she spoke into the emergency transmitter. Something is coming from beyond our galaxy. Ships. No, not ships. Living things. Massive bioforms moving through space. They consume everything in their path. Planets, stars, even the fabric of space itself seems to feed them. We counted millions of them before our sensors were overwhelmed. They are heading straight for Council space. That message reached the Council chambers 3 days later. By then, 12 more star systems had fallen silent. Elder Mylith called an emergency session. The great chamber filled with worried representatives from across the galaxy. Their usual calm discussions became frantic debates as more reports arrived. "The outer defense grid is gone," announced General Thrace of the Tauran fleet. His blue scales had turned pale with stress. 47 battle stations, each one armed with our most advanced weapons. They did not even slow these creatures down. The main hologram showed the galaxy from above. Red dots marked the areas where the invaders had been detected. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The creatures moved in a straight line toward the heart of Council space, consuming everything in their path. "They are called the Void Swarm," reported Dr. Synthesis, a Nephim researcher who studied dangerous species. Her gaseous form had turned a sickly yellow color. Ancient texts from dead civilizations mention them. They appear every few million years, moving from galaxy to galaxy. Nothing stops them. Nothing survives them. Counselor Zera floated forward, his purple gas swirling anxiously. "How long do we have?" Dr. Synthesis consulted her data pad. "At their current speed, the main swarm will reach our core worlds in 18 days. Silence fell over the chamber. 18 days to evacuate billions of beings. 18 days before their entire civilization disappeared forever. "What are our military options?" Elder Mylith asked. General Thrace's scales turned even paler. "Limited. Our fleets are designed to keep peace between member species. We have never faced an enemy that wants to destroy everything. Our weapons are meant to disable ships, not kill billions of creatures. Can we negotiate with them?" suggested Counselor Windborn of the aerial Skyfall species. "No," Dr. Synthesis replied flatly. "They have no individual minds. The Void Swarm is a single intelligence spread across millions of bioships. They do not communicate. They do not negotiate. They simply consume." The hologram changed to show what little data they had about the swarm itself. The bioships looked like enormous insects crossed with deep-sea creatures. Some were the size of cities, others as large as moons. They moved through space without any visible propulsion, as if swimming through an invisible ocean. "Each creature is both a ship and a weapon," Dr. Synthesis explained. "They can survive in the vacuum of space, reproduce quickly, and adapt to any threat. Worst of all, they seem to grow stronger by consuming advanced technology. Our most powerful weapons might only make them more dangerous." Despair settled over the Council like a heavy blanket. Species that had lived in peace for thousands of years suddenly faced extinction. Their advanced technology, their careful diplomacy, their vast knowledge, none of it mattered against an enemy that simply wanted to devour everything. "We must begin immediate evacuations," Elder Mylith announced. "All non-essential personnel should retreat to the deep core systems. Military forces will buy as much time as possible." "Where can we go?" asked Counselor Tidal. "If these creatures have destroyed entire galaxies, where in the universe is safe?" No one had an answer. The next few days passed in controlled chaos. Massive transport ships moved between worlds, loading refugees and essential supplies. Ancient libraries were packed into data cores. Art treasures were carefully stored in the deepest vaults. Entire civilizations prepared to abandon their homes. But even as they evacuated, more bad news arrived. The Void Swarm was moving faster than expected. Scouts reported that the creatures were somehow feeding off the energy from dying stars, growing, larger and more numerous with each system they consumed. On the 10th day, Elder Myleth sat alone in her private chambers. The crystal walls around her pulsed with dim, sad light. Outside her window, she could see evacuation ships streaming past, like fireflies fleeing a forest fire. Her aide, a younger Valari named Crystal, entered the room. His light was brighter than hers, not yet dimmed by the weight of leadership. "Elder, I have a suggestion. You may not like it. At this point, young one, I will consider anything." Crystal hesitated. "The humans, the ones we rejected 6 months ago. They come from a world we classified as impossibly dangerous. Perhaps that danger could help us now." Elder Myleth's light flickered with surprise. "The Deathworlders? What could they possibly do against a threat that has destroyed entire fleets?" "I do not know," Crystal admitted. "But they survived on a planet that should have killed them. They evolved alongside predators that should have eaten them. Maybe their experience with danger could teach us something we do not know." Elder Myleth considered this. Everything about humans frightened her. Their casual acceptance of violence, their strange emotional control, their world that turned survival into a daily challenge. But what if those terrifying qualities were exactly what the galaxy needed now? "The other council members will think I have lost my mind," she said finally. "Perhaps. But what is the alternative? We evacuate and hope the swarm grows bored before finding us? We try to fight with weapons designed for peacekeeping? Or do we ask for help from the only species in the galaxy that might understand how to face impossible odds?" Elder Myleth made her decision. She activated her personal communicator and sent a priority message toward the Sol system. The message was simple, direct, and desperate. "To the humans of Earth, the Galactic Council faces extinction. An enemy beyond our ability to fight approaches our worlds. We rejected your membership, but now we humbly ask for your help. We do not know what you can do that we cannot, but you are our last hope. Please respond if you are willing to help strangers who showed you no kindness." The message would take 3 days to reach Earth. 3 days during which the Void Swarm continued its relentless advance toward the heart of galactic civilization. Elder Myleth could only wait and hope that the dangerous species she had feared would somehow become their salvation. Captain Boram stood on the bridge of the EDS Inchin, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. The massive vessel hung in Earth's orbit like a steel guardian, its weapon systems dark but ready. As the commanding officer of Earth's Deep Space Defense Force, Boram had been expecting something like this message for months. The communication from the Galactic Council played again on the main screen. Elder Myleth's crystal form flickered with desperate light as she begged for help from the species they had rejected just 6 months earlier. "Ma'am, what are your orders?" asked Lieutenant Taymin, the ship's tactical officer. His young face showed the calm determination that marked all Earth military personnel. "Patch me through to command. We need to get this to the President immediately." Within an hour, every major leader on Earth had seen the alien message. President Jin Ai called. An emergency session of the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every nation and colony gathered in the Great Hall in Geneva. The president was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but her voice carried the strength that had made her a leader during humanity's expansion into space. She stood before the assembly with the alien message displayed behind her. Friends, we face a choice that will define humanity's place in the universe. The aliens who rejected us now ask for our help against a threat they cannot handle alone. We could ignore this message. We could say that their problems are not our concern, or we can do what humans have always done when innocent people face danger. The debate that followed was brief but intense. Some representatives argued that humanity owed the aliens nothing. Others worried that getting involved would only bring the void swarm to Earth's doorstep, but in the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would help. Back on the Inchin, Bo-Ram gathered her senior staff to study the data the aliens had provided about the void swarm. Engineer So Young, a brilliant woman who could make any machine work better, pulled up holographic displays of the enemy bioships. "These creatures are impressive," she admitted, "but they have weaknesses. Look at their movement patterns. They travel in perfect formations, which means they are predictable. Their bio-armor is thick, but it has to be flexible for the creatures to move. That creates weak points." Lieutenant Taman nodded as he analyzed the tactical data. "Their numbers are huge, but they move slowly. If we hit them fast and hard, we could do real damage before they adapt." "What about their ability to consume technology?" asked Dr. Park, the ship's science officer. So Young smiled grimly. "That could actually help us. If they absorb our technology, they absorb our weaknesses too. We just need to make sure those weaknesses hurt them more than they help." Captain Bo-Ram studied the enemy fleet estimates. Millions of bioships, each one the size of a small city. By any reasonable standard, it was hopeless. But humans had never put much faith in reasonable standards. "Send a message to Earth Command," she ordered. "Tell them we need every ship that can fly and every person willing to fight. We are going to war." The response from Earth was immediate and overwhelming. Military vessels began moving toward the rally point near Mars. Civilian ships volunteered to carry supplies. Retired soldiers came out of retirement. Young people who had never seen combat signed up for emergency training. President Jin A addressed the planet one final time before the fleet departed. Her speech was broadcast to every human settlement, from the underground cities of Mars to the space stations orbiting Jupiter. "My fellow humans, we go to fight for people who do not know us, in a place far from home, against an enemy that seems impossible to defeat. We do this not because we expect reward or recognition. We do this because it is right, because when evil threatens the innocent, humans stand up and fight back." The Earth Defense Fleet assembled in space above Mars. 200 warships of various sizes, from massive dreadnoughts to small, fast fighters. Support vessels carried medical supplies, spare parts, and emergency equipment. Transport ships held 20,000 volunteers who had asked to help however they could. Admiral Dong Hyun, a veteran of humanity's expansion wars, took command of the fleet. He was an older man with scars on his hands from an explosion during his younger days as an engineer. He understood both the technical and human sides of warfare. As the fleet prepared to depart, they received another message from the Galactic Council. This time it was not a plea for help, but a warning. "Human fleet, we are grateful for your response, but you must understand the danger. The Void Swarm has destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours. Their bioships can survive weapons that would vaporize metal. Their numbers grow with every system they consume. We do not ask you to sacrifice yourselves uselessly. Admiral Dong Hyun recorded his reply personally. His weathered face showed no fear, only determination. Galactic Council, we appreciate your warning, but you do not understand humans very well. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and disasters that should have wiped us out. We learned that impossible just means you have to work harder. He paused, looking directly into the camera. You see the Void Swarm as an unstoppable force. We see them as a problem that needs solving. You worry about their numbers. We see targets. You fear their adaptations. We see opportunities to be creative. The human fleet engaged their FTL drives and disappeared into the darkness between stars, heading toward a battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy. Behind them, Earth continued its preparations. Factories worked around the clock to build new weapons and equipment. Scientists studied every piece of data about the Void Swarm, looking for weaknesses. Engineers designed new ship modifications that could be transmitted to the fleet, but most importantly, families said goodbye to their loved ones with the same calm acceptance that had terrified the Galactic Council months earlier. Humans understood that some things were worth dying for, even if those things belonged to strangers who had never shown them kindness. As the fleet traveled through hyperspace toward their destination, Captain Bo Ram stood in her quarters, looking at a picture of Earth. The blue marble looked peaceful and beautiful, but she knew the truth. It was a world that had forged humanity in fire and storm, teaching them to face impossible odds with courage and determination. Soon, the galaxy would learn what Deathworlders could do when the universe needed saving. The human fleet arrived at the Galactic Council's Emergency Command Center, a massive space station orbiting the beautiful blue star Harmony Prime. What they found there shocked them, but not in the way the aliens expected. Admiral Dong Hyun looked around the station's main hangar as his shuttle docked. Everywhere he saw panic and despair. Alien workers ran back and forth, loading evacuation ships with desperate haste. Children of various species cried as their parents tried to explain why they had to leave their homes forever. "This is not how you prepare for war," he said quietly to Captain Boram, who had come with him for the command briefing. The main war room was filled with holographic displays showing the advancing Void Swarm. Red dots marked enemy positions, while blue dots showed the retreating Council fleets. The red was winning by an enormous margin. Elder Mylith greeted the human officers with a mixture of relief and terror. Her crystal body flickered nervously as she spoke. "Admiral Dong Hyun, we are grateful beyond words that you came, but I must warn you again. This enemy is unlike anything we have ever faced. Our greatest weapons barely scratch their bio-armor. Our fastest ships cannot outrun them. Our most brilliant tactics fail against their hive mind." Admiral Dong Hyun studied the tactical displays with calm eyes. "Tell me about their behavior. Patterns." "They move in perfect formations," explained General Thrace, his blue scales pale with stress. "Always the same distance apart, always the same speed. They never break formation, even when attacked." "Interesting. And how do they choose targets?" "They seem to prioritize high-energy sources," Dr. Synthesis answered, her gas form a worried yellow color. "Power stations, military bases, populated cities. They consume the energy and leave nothing behind." Dr. Ye Jin, the human fleet's xenobiology expert, leaned forward with interest. "Do they communicate with each other during battle?" "Not in any way we can detect. The hive mind seems to control them all directly. Dr. Ye-jin exchanged a meaningful look with Admiral Dong-hyun. That could be a significant weakness. Elder Myleth's light flickered with confusion. How can perfect coordination be a weakness? Because perfect coordination requires perfect information, Captain Boram explained. If you disrupt the information flow, the coordination breaks down. The aliens looked puzzled, so Commander Wu Bin, the fleet's tactical specialist, stepped forward. He was a thin man with quick eyes who thought about war the way others thought about chess. May I demonstrate with your tactical display? Elder Myleth nodded, and Wu Bin activated the hologram controls. The display changed to show a simplified battle scenario. Here is how Council forces have been fighting. He showed blue ships attacking. The swarm formation from the front. Direct assault, maximum firepower, attempting to destroy as many enemies as possible. The simulation played out, showing the blue ships being overwhelmed by superior numbers. Now here is how humans would approach this problem. The display reset, and this time the blue ships attacked from multiple directions at once, targeting specific points in the enemy formation. You are not trying to destroy them all, Wu Bin explained. You are trying to disrupt their formation, separate them from the hive mind's control, and turn their strengths into weaknesses. General Thrace studied the display with growing amazement. But this requires perfect timing across multiple fleets. How do you coordinate such complex attacks? Practice, Admiral Dong-hyun said simply. Human military forces train for chaos, not order. We expect plans to go wrong and prepare for it. The aliens watched in fascination as Wu Bin demonstrated more human tactical concepts. Feint attacks that made the enemy move into trap positions. Sacrificial units that drew fire away from the main assault. Hit-and-run strikes that accumulated damage over time instead of seeking immediate victory. This is all very interesting, Elder Myleth said slowly. But you still face the same problem we do. They outnumber your fleet by thousands to one. Engineer. So-young smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Numbers only matter if you fight the kind of battle they expect. She activated her own display, showing technical specifications for human weapons and ships. Your technology is more advanced than ours in most ways, she admitted. Your energy shields are better, your sensors are more sensitive, your computers are faster. But our technology has one advantage. It was designed by people who expected everything to go wrong. She highlighted the human ship designs. Our vessels can operate with heavy damage. Our weapons work in environments that would shut down more delicate systems. Our power cores can be overloaded for emergency performance, even if it destroys them. You design your equipment to break? Dr. Synthesis asked, her gas form swirling with confusion. We design it to break in useful ways, So-young corrected. A human ship that is about to be destroyed can take a lot of enemies with it. Your ships are built to survive. Ours are built to keep fighting until they cannot fight anymore. The briefing continued for hours as human officers explained concepts. That seemed insane to the peaceful aliens. Acceptable casualty rates, calculated risks. The idea that sometimes retreat was the best way to win. But what disturbed the aliens most was the reaction of ordinary humans to the news of the war. Counselor Tidal watched video feeds from the human ships as crews prepared for battle. He expected to see fear, desperation, or at least serious concern. Instead, he saw people joking as they loaded weapons, singing songs as they checked equipment, and saying goodbye to their families with smiles. How can they be so calm? He asked Captain Boram. Do they not understand they are about to fight a battle they will probably lose? Oh, they understand, Bahram replied, but humans learned long ago that fear does not help you win. We save our worry for after the battle, when we have time for it. The most shocking moment came when Admiral Dong Hyun called for volunteers for the most dangerous missions. Every single human in the fleet volunteered immediately. Not just the soldiers, but the engineers, doctors, cooks, and maintenance workers. People who had never fired a weapon in anger raised their hands to fight an enemy that had destroyed civilizations. Elder Myleth pulled Admiral Dong Hyun aside after the briefing. I must ask you directly, are your people afraid of death? The Admiral considered the question seriously. Yes, we are afraid. But we are more afraid of living in a universe where evil wins because good people did nothing. That night, as the combined fleet prepared to face the Void Swarm, the aliens watched their human allies with a mixture of admiration and terror. These Deathworlders had taken an impossible situation and somehow found hope in it. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous species makes the best protector, the Void. Swarm entered Council space like a living storm. Millions of bioships moved in perfect formation, their dark shapes blotting out stars as they advanced. Each creature was the size of a city, covered in thick armor that pulsed with alien life. They came not as conquerors seeking territory, but as devourers seeking only to consume. On the Council command station, alarms screamed as long-range sensors tracked the approaching horror. Elder Myleth watched the tactical displays with growing despair. The outer defense stations had been swept away like leaves in a hurricane. Entire fleets of Council ships disappeared from the screens, consumed without slowing the swarm's advance. Estimate time to core world contact, she asked quietly. 14 hours, General Thrace replied, his voice hollow. The evacuation ships will not reach safe distance in time. On the bridge of the EDS Incheon, Captain Bahram studied the same displays with different eyes. Where the aliens saw unstoppable destruction, she saw patterns and opportunities. Tae Min, what do you think of their formation? The young tactical officer highlighted sections of the enemy fleet. They maintain exact spacing between bioships. Same distance, same relative positions. It never changes, even when they encounter obstacles. So young engineering assessment? The engineer pulled up bioscan data on the enemy ships. Impressive organic technology. But they rely heavily on coordination. Each ship seems specialized for specific functions. Some are pure fighters, others appear to be supply vessels, and those larger ones in the center are probably command units. Dr. Ye Jin added her analysis. The hive mind controls everything through some kind of biological network. If we could disrupt that network, the formation would collapse, Bahram finished. Admiral, are you seeing this? Admiral Dong Hyun's voice came through the comm system from his flagship. I see it, Captain. Commander Wu Bin has a plan. Are you ready for some creative destruction? Captain Mi Ray of the fast attack ship EDS Busan spoke up from her position at the fleet's edge. Sir, my squadron is in position for the first strike. We are ready to show these things how humans dance. The human fleet had positioned itself in what looked like a defensive formation behind the Council's retreating ships. To alien eyes, it appeared that the humans were preparing for a hopeless last stand. They had no idea that humanity's real battle plan was about to begin. All ships, this is Admiral Dong Hyun, the fleet commander announced. Remember, we are not trying to destroy them all. We are trying to break their rhythm, hit hard, move fast, and make them think differently. Execute Operation Deathworld. Captain Mirai led the first wave. Her squadron of 12 fast attack ships accelerated to maximum velocity and dove straight into the swarm's formation. But instead of attacking the front line, they punched through a gap between enemy formations and headed for the command ships in the center. The Void Swarm's response was exactly what the humans had predicted. The bioships began turning to follow the human attack, but their perfect formation meant they all had to move together. The graceful coordination that made them so effective in straight-line attacks became a weakness when they needed to change direction quickly. Mirai's ships fired, concentrated bursts at the command bioships, not trying to destroy them but targeting what appeared to be communication organs. Massive creatures that had survived the destruction of entire fleets suddenly found themselves partially cut off from the hive mind's control. First target damaged, Mirai reported as her ship's weapons burned through bioarmor. Moving to secondary objectives, but the swarm was adapting. Smaller bioships broke formation to chase the human attackers. For the first time in the battle, the enemy's perfect coordination cracked. That was when the second wave hit. Captain Boram led a force of heavy cruisers in a flanking attack from the side, while the swarm's attention was focused on Mirai's fast ships. Boram's squadron hammered the supply vessels that kept the bioships fed and healthy. "Engineering, I need everything you can give me," Boram called out as enemy fire began to find her ship. Already overloading the reactors, So Young replied calmly. "We have maybe 10 minutes before they burn out." "Then we better make them count. All weapons, target those feeding tubes." The human cruisers unleashed concentrated fire on the bioship's most vulnerable spots. Unlike the aliens, who had tried to destroy the creatures with overwhelming force, the humans aimed for specific weak points that would cause maximum disruption with minimum energy. The results were immediate and shocking. Bioships that had seemed invulnerable began to convulse and slow down. Their organic systems, evolved for perfect efficiency, could not handle the precise damage the humans were inflicting. On the Council command station, the alien observers watched in amazement as the human tactics unfolded. "How are they doing this?" Elder Mylith asked, her crystal form flickering with disbelief. Dr. Synthesis studied the battle data. "They are not fighting the swarm's strengths. They are exploiting weaknesses we never noticed. Look, they are treating this like hunting rather than warfare." And that was exactly what the humans were doing. Every human culture had hunting traditions, ways of bringing down prey much larger and stronger than themselves. Pack tactics, persistence hunting, targeting vital points instead of trying to overpower the enemy through brute force. The third wave was the most audacious yet. Lieutenant Colonel Hay-Wan led a force of boarding ships straight at the largest bioships in the formation. Her mission was not to destroy them, but to capture them. "Boarding teams, remember your training," she announced as her ships approached the enemy. "These creatures are big, but they are still just animals. Find their nervous systems and shut them down." Human Marines in powered armor cut through bioship hulls with tools designed for asteroid mining. Once inside, they moved through organic corridors like antibodies fighting an infection. Their objective was simple: find the bioship's brain and disconnect it from the hive mind. What happened next shocked even the humans. The bioships they captured did not just stop fighting. They began attacking other swarm vessels. Without the hive mind's control, the creatures reverted to basic predatory instincts and saw other bioships as food sources. The swarm's perfect formation began to collapse as captured bioships turned on their former allies. The hive mind tried to compensate, but human tactics kept disrupting its attempts to regain control. Captain Mi Ray, her ship now heavily damaged, led her surviving fighters in one final attack. This time, they targeted the largest command bioship at the center of the formation. "This is for everyone who never got a chance to fight back," she said, as her ship accelerated toward the enemy. Her vessel, its hull cracked and weapons failing, rammed straight into the command creature's communication center. The explosion that followed sent shock waves through the biological network that held the swarm together. For the first time in millions of years, the Void Swarm hesitated. The hive mind's perfect control wavered as conflicting signals raced through its network. Bioships stopped in confusion, their formation scattered, their coordination broken. Admiral Dong Hyun seized the moment. "All ships, concentrate fire on the command vessels. Do not let them re-establish control." The human fleet struck with everything they had, targeting the creatures that were trying to restore order to the swarm. Each command bioship they destroyed sent more chaos through the enemy ranks. The aliens watching from their command station could barely believe what they were seeing. The unstoppable force that had consumed entire galaxies was being torn apart by tactics they had never considered. But the battle was far from over. The Void Swarm still had millions of bioships, and the hive mind was learning from each human. Attack. Soon it would adapt, and the humans would face an enemy that knew how they fought. The real test was just beginning. The silence that followed the hive mind's death was more terrifying than the battle itself. Across the vast battlefield, millions of bioships drifted without purpose, their organic hulls still pulsing with life, but their controlling intelligence gone forever. Admiral Kyung-soo studied the tactical displays from his flagship, the EDS Harmony. The veteran commander had seen many battles, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of an entire enemy fleet simply stopping. "Status report from all ships," he ordered. The responses came in slowly. Many human vessels had been damaged or destroyed in the fighting. Captain Mirai's ship was gone along with dozens of others, but the core of the fleet remained intact, and more importantly, they had achieved something no other species in galactic history had managed. "Sir, we are receiving communications from the swarm bioships," reported Lieutenant Eugene, the communications officer. "But it is not the hive mind. Individual creatures are trying to talk to us." This was unprecedented. Without the hive mind's control, the bioships were reverting to their original nature as individual organisms. Some were trying to surrender. Others seemed confused about where they were or what they had been doing. Major Yun Ha led the investigation teams that boarded the now peaceful bioships. What they found inside was both fascinating and disturbing. The creatures had been enslaved by the hive mind for so long that they had forgotten how to think for themselves. These beings were not originally part of the swarm, Dr. Ye-jin reported, after examining several specimens. They were captured from different species and modified to serve the hive mind. Some of them have been slaves for thousands of years. The moral implications hit the human fleet like a physical blow. They had not just defeated an enemy, they had liberated millions of enslaved beings who had been forced to participate in the destruction of their own galaxy. "We need to help them," Admiral Kyung-soo declared. "Set up medical teams and try to establish communication with as many as possible." But the humans faced a new problem. The largest bioship, the command organism that had housed the hive mind's core intelligence, was still alive but critically injured. Without immediate medical attention, it would die, and with it would go any chance of understanding how the swarm had operated or how to prevent it from returning. Dr. Ye-jin volunteered to lead a medical team into the dying creature's body. It was an incredibly dangerous mission. The bioship's immune system was attacking anything it perceived as foreign, and its damaged nervous system was sending random pain signals throughout its massive body. "We need to reach the central brain chamber," she explained to her team as they prepared to enter through a wound in the creature's hull. "If we can stabilize the neural tissue, we might be able to save some of the memories stored there." The journey through the bioship's interior was like traveling through a living nightmare. Corridors pulsed with blood flow, walls secreted acid in random places, and the air itself was toxic to human lungs. But the medical team pressed on, using their knowledge of biology and their stubborn human determination to reach their goal. Meanwhile, the rest of the human fleet was dealing with the aftermath of victory. Many bioships were beyond saving, their organic systems too damaged to sustain life. But others could be helped, and human medical teams worked around the clock to provide aid to beings they had been fighting just hours before. The aliens of the Galactic Council watched these rescue efforts with growing amazement. The same humans, who had just fought the most brutal battle in galactic history, were now risking their lives to save their former enemies. "I do not understand," Elder Mylith confided to Admiral Dong Hyun. "Why do you help creatures that tried to destroy everything?" "Because they were not really our enemies," the Admiral replied. "They were victims, just like everyone else the swarm attacked. The real enemy was the hive mind that enslaved them." This concept was difficult for the aliens to grasp. In their peaceful society, enemies were clearly defined and conflicts were resolved through negotiation. The idea that someone could be both victim and aggressor at the same time challenged their understanding of morality. Dr. Yejin's team finally reached the central brain chamber of the dying command organism. What they found there was heartbreaking. The massive brain, once the core of an intelligence that had controlled millions of beings, was now fragmenting as the creature died. "We are too late to save the organism," she reported sadly. "But I think we can preserve some of its memories. If we can download the data before the neural tissue degrades completely." Working in conditions that would have killed most aliens, her team connected human computer systems to the dying brain. The process was dangerous and experimental, but it offered the only chance to understand how the swarm had operated and how to prevent future invasions. The data they recovered was staggering. The hive mind had indeed consumed entire galaxies, enslaving billions of beings over millions of years. But it had not been evil in any way humans could understand. It had simply been following its biological programming, like a virus spreading, through healthy tissue. The creature that became the original hive mind was from a species called the Devourers, Dr. Yejin explained to the command staff. They evolved on a dead world where the only way to survive was to consume other living things completely. When they gained intelligence, they turned that survival instinct into a cosmic plague. The implications were sobering. The Void Swarm had not been an army of conquerors, but a biological disaster that had spread across the universe. Stopping it had required not just military victory, but a fundamental understanding of how life itself could go wrong. As the rescued bioships began to recover, humans faced another challenge. Many of the liberated beings had no idea where they came from or what they wanted to do with their freedom. Some had been part of the swarm for so long that they had no memory of their original lives. Captain Boram established refugee centers on several captured bioships, turning vessels of war into havens for displaced beings. Human psychologists worked with alien survivors to help them remember who they had been before the swarm found them. "We offer you safe passage to any world that will accept you," she told a group of newly freed beings. "But you are also welcome to stay with us. Humans know something about making new homes when the old ones are gone." The offer surprised the aliens. Humans had just saved the galaxy, and now they were offering to share their resources with creatures that had tried to destroy them. But perhaps the most significant moment came when the human fleet prepared to leave the battlefield. The bioships that had been saved asked permission to accompany them. After millions of years of forced servitude, they wanted to learn what freedom meant from the people who had given it to them. Admiral Kyung-soo granted their request. The fleet that returned to Council space included not just human warships, but also dozens of converted bioships carrying refugees from across the galaxy. The victory parade that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of celebrating conquest, it honored liberation. Instead of displaying captured weapons, it showcased rescued beings who had been given new chances at life. But for the humans, the real victory was not military. It was the knowledge that they had proven something important about their species. The same qualities that made them dangerous, their adaptability, their willingness to sacrifice, their refusal to accept defeat, also made them capable of extraordinary compassion. As Admiral Dong-hyun watched the celebration from his ship's bridge, he reflected on what they had accomplished. The galaxy would never again fear the Void Swarm, but more importantly, it would never again doubt that humanity belonged among the stars. The Deathworlders had not just saved the galaxy, they had earned their place in it. 1 year after the Battle of the Crimson Nebula, the Galactic Council chambers looked very different. The elegant crystal halls now contained new sections designed to accommodate species that had never been seen before. Refugees from the void, swarm who had chosen to make new lives in Council space. Ambassador Dong-min walked through these halls with quiet satisfaction. The elderly diplomat had replaced Hyun-woo as humanity's primary representative, and his first year had been busier than any in Council history. The transformation was remarkable. Where once aliens had whispered nervously about the dangerous Deathworlders, now they approached human representatives with respect and gratitude. Children of various species played together in the station's parks, including young humans whose laughter no longer frightened their alien friends. "Ambassador Dong-min," Elder Myleth called as he passed the Central Assembly Chamber. Her crystal form now glowed with warm, steady light instead of the nervous flickering she had shown during their first meeting. "Do you have a moment? There is something the Council would like to discuss with you." Inside the chamber, representatives from dozens of species had gathered for a special session. But this was not a meeting to debate policy or resolve disputes. It was a ceremony unlike any in galactic history. 1 year ago, Elder Myleth began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, this council made a decision based on fear. We rejected humanity's application for membership because we believed your species was too dangerous for civilized society. The chamber fell silent as delegates from across the galaxy listened to words that had been carefully prepared. Over months of discussion, we were correct about one thing, the elder continued. Humans are indeed dangerous, but we failed to understand that danger directed toward evil becomes something precious. It becomes protection for the innocent. Ambassador Dong-min stood quietly as Elder Myleth spoke. Around him, he could see the faces of beings whose worlds had been saved by human courage, former bioship captives who now served as cultural ambassadors, council members who had watched humans risk everything for strangers. Today, we do not offer humanity membership in our council, Elder Myleth announced. We ask humanity to accept leadership of our defense forces. We ask the Deathworlders to become our protectors. The formal vote was unanimous, but that was just a ceremony. The real decision had been made months earlier, as the galaxy watched humans establish refugee centers, rebuild damaged worlds, and share their military knowledge freely with anyone who wanted to learn. Captain Bo-Ram, now promoted to Admiral, had established the Galactic Defense Academy on a space station orbiting Earth's moon. The curriculum was unlike anything previously seen in Council space. Courses on combat psychology, crisis leadership, and what humans called impossible problem solving. The key to human military success, she explained to a class of alien officers, is not our weapons or our tactics. It is our willingness to accept that some problems cannot be solved safely. Sometimes the right choice is also the dangerous choice. Her students included beings from species that had never conceived of voluntary risk-taking. They struggled with concepts like acceptable casualties and calculated sacrifice, but gradually they began to understand the mindset that had saved their civilization. Dr. Ye Jin had established a xenobiology research center that studied former swarm creatures. Her work was helping hundreds of liberated beings recover their original identities and abilities. Some had been slaves for so long that they had forgotten their own names, but patient human counselors helped them remember who they had been. Each species that was enslaved by the swarm has unique gifts, she explained to the Council's Science Committee. The ethereal singers can detect gravitational waves with their natural organs. The crystal builders can grow living ships from mineral nutrients. We are not just healing these beings. We are helping the galaxy rediscover lost knowledge. The integration was not always smooth. Some council species still felt uncomfortable around humans, and a few newly liberated beings struggled with the concept of freedom after millennia of servitude. But progress was steady, helped by humanity's patient approach to building trust. President Jin A had been re-elected partly on her promise to earn the galaxy's trust through deeds, not words. Her administration had established cultural exchange programs, joint research projects, and shared defense initiatives that strengthened bonds between species. Fear is a poor foundation for civilization, she said during her inauguration speech, which was broadcast to every world in Council space. But trust built through shared sacrifice can last forever. The most symbolic change was the establishment of Memorial Station, built from the hull of a former swarm command ship. The massive bioship had been converted into a museum and memorial honoring all those who had died during the swarm's reign of terror. But it was also a research center where scientists from across the galaxy worked together to ensure such a threat could never rise again. Commander Wu Bin, now Director of Strategic Planning for the Galactic Defense Force, oversaw the memorial's security center. His job was to monitor the galaxy for signs of similar threats while coordinating response plans with member species. The Void Swarm was not unique, he explained to visiting dignitaries. Our analysis suggests that hive mind. Predators have evolved independently in at least 12 different galaxies. We must be ready for the next one. The defensive preparations were impressive. Early warning networks stretched across galactic borders. Rapid response fleets stood ready at strategic points. Most importantly, the alliance between species had created a communication network that could coordinate resistance on a scale never before achieved. But the greatest change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict itself. The peaceful species of the Council, had learned that sometimes violence was necessary to protect peace. They still preferred negotiation and compromise, but they no longer saw military preparation as barbaric. Humans taught us that being prepared for war is not the same as wanting war, Elder Myleth reflected during a private conversation with Ambassador Dong Min. Your species fights so that others do not have to. The ambassador smiled, remembering his first meeting with the council, when they had been terrified of humanity's capacity for violence. We learned long ago that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. It is one of the few things all human cultures agree about. As the anniversary of the Great Battle approached, the galaxy prepared for the largest celebration in its history. Not a celebration of war, but a celebration of the peace that had been preserved through courage and sacrifice. On Earth, monuments were being built to honor the humans who had died in the battle. Their names would be remembered alongside the greatest heroes in human history. But the monuments also honored the aliens who had welcomed humanity despite their fears, and the former swarm creatures who had found new lives in freedom. The final ceremony took place on Harmony Prime, the Council's capital world. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered to witness the signing of the Deathworld Accords, a treaty that formally established humanity as the galaxy's guardians while guaranteeing the rights and freedoms of all member species. Ambassador Dong Min signed the historic document. He thought about how far they had all come. A year ago, humans had been outcasts, too dangerous to trust. Now they were family, bound to their galactic neighbors by shared purpose and mutual respect. The galaxy was safer now, not just because of human military strength, but because all its peoples had learned to work together. The Void Swarm had tried to consume everything, but in defending against it, the galaxy had discovered something precious. Unity born of shared struggle, and in the far reaches of space, where new threats might someday emerge, early warning beacons stood ready. They carried a simple message to any who might threaten the peace. This galaxy is protected. The Deathworlders watch. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but the galaxy had learned an important truth. Sometimes the most terrifying guardians make the most faithful protectors. Sometimes those who understand violence best are those most committed to peace. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the shield that stood between civilization and chaos. And the galaxy was stronger for it. 1 year after the Battle of the Crimson Nebula, the Galactic Council chambers looked very different. The elegant crystal halls now contained new sections designed to accommodate species that had never been seen before. Refugees from the void. Swarm who had chosen to make new lives in council space. Ambassador Dong Min walked through these halls with quiet satisfaction. The elderly diplomat had replaced Hyun Woo as humanity's primary representative, and his first year had been busier than any in council history. The transformation was remarkable. Where once aliens had whispered nervously about the dangerous Deathworlders, now they approached human representatives with respect and gratitude. Children of various species played together in the station's parks, including young humans whose laughter no longer frightened their alien friends. Ambassador Dong Min, Elder Myleth called as he passed the Central Assembly Chamber. Her crystal form now glowed with warm, steady light instead of the nervous flickering she had shown during their first meeting. "Do you have a moment? There is something the council would like to discuss with you." Inside the chamber, representatives from dozens of species had gathered for a special session. But this was not a meeting to debate policy or resolve disputes. It was a ceremony unlike any in galactic history. 1 year ago, Elder Myleth began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber, this council made a decision based on fear. We rejected humanity's application for membership because we believed your species was too dangerous for civilized society. The chamber fell silent as delegates from across the galaxy listened to words that had been carefully prepared over months of discussion. We were correct about one thing, the elder continued. Humans are indeed dangerous. But we failed to understand that danger directed toward evil becomes something precious. It becomes protection for the innocent. Ambassador Dongmin stood quietly as Elder Myleth spoke. Around him he could see the faces of beings whose worlds had been saved by human courage. Former bioship captives who now served as cultural ambassadors, council members who had watched humans risk everything for strangers. Today, we do not offer humanity membership in our council, Elder Myleth announced. We ask humanity to accept leadership of our defense forces. We ask the Deathworlders to become our protectors. The formal vote was unanimous, but that was just a ceremony. The real decision had been made months earlier, as the galaxy watched humans establish refugee centers, rebuild damaged worlds, and share their military knowledge freely with anyone who wanted to learn. Captain Boram, now promoted to admiral, had established the Galactic Defense Academy on a space station orbiting Earth's moon. The curriculum was unlike anything previously seen in council space. Courses on combat psychology, crisis leadership, and what humans called impossible problem solving. The key to human military success, she explained to a class of alien officers, is not our weapons or our tactics. It is our willingness to accept that some problems cannot be solved safely. Sometimes the right choice is also the dangerous choice. Her students included beings from species that had never conceived of voluntary risk-taking. They struggled with concepts like acceptable casualties and calculated sacrifice, but gradually they began to understand the mindset that had saved their civilization. Dr. Ye Jin had established a xenobiology research center that studied former swarm creatures. Her work was helping hundreds of liberated beings recover their original identities and abilities. Some had been slaves for so long that they had forgotten their own names, but patient human counselors helped them remember who they had been. Each species that was enslaved by the swarm has unique gifts, she explained to the council's science committee. The ethereal singers can detect gravitational waves with their natural organs. The crystal builders can grow living ships from mineral nutrients. We are not just healing these beings, we are helping the galaxy rediscover lost knowledge. The integration was not always smooth. Some council species still felt uncomfortable around humans, and a few newly liberated beings struggled with the concept of freedom after millennia of servitude. But progress was steady, helped by humanity's patient approach to building trust. President Jin A had been re-elected partly on her promise to earn the galaxy's trust through deeds, not words. Her administration had established cultural exchange programs, joint research projects, and shared defense initiatives that strengthened bonds between species. Fear is a poor foundation for civilization, she said during her inauguration speech, which was broadcast to every world in council space. But trust built through shared sacrifice can last forever. The most symbolic change was the establishment of Memorial Station, built from the hull of a former swarm command ship. The massive bioship had been converted into a museum and memorial honoring all those who had died during the swarm's reign of terror. But it was also a research center where scientists from across the galaxy worked together to ensure such a threat could never rise again. Commander Wu Bin, now Director of Strategic Planning for the Galactic Defense Force, oversaw the Memorial's Security Center. His job was to monitor the galaxy for signs of similar threats while coordinating response plans with member species. The Void Swarm was not unique, he explained to visiting dignitaries. Our analysis suggests that hive mind predators have evolved independently in at least 12 different galaxies. We must be ready for the next one. The defensive preparations were impressive. Early warning networks stretched across galactic borders. Rapid response fleets stood ready at strategic points. Most importantly, the alliance between species had created a communication network that could coordinate resistance on a scale never before achieved. But the greatest change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict itself. The peaceful species of the Council had learned that sometimes violence was necessary to protect peace. They still preferred negotiation and compromise, but they no longer saw military preparation as barbaric. Humans taught us that being prepared for war is not the same as wanting war, Elder Myleth reflected during a private conversation with Ambassador Dong Min. Your species fights so that others do not have to. The ambassador smiled, remembering his first meeting with the Council, when they had been terrified of humanity's capacity for violence. We learned long ago that the strong have a responsibility to protect the weak. It is one of the few things all human cultures agree about. As the anniversary of the Great Battle approached, the galaxy prepared for the largest celebration in its history. Not a celebration of war, but a celebration of the peace that had been preserved through courage and sacrifice. On Earth, monuments were being built to honor the humans who had died in the battle. Their names would be remembered alongside the greatest heroes in human history. But the monuments also honored the aliens who had welcomed humanity despite their fears, and the former swarm creatures who had found new lives in freedom. The final ceremony took place on Harmony Prime, the Council's capital world. Representatives from every species in the galaxy gathered to witness the signing of the Deathworld Accords, a treaty that formally established humanity as the galaxy's guardians while guaranteeing the rights and freedoms of all member species. As Ambassador Dong Min signed the historic document, he thought about how far they had all come. A year ago, humans had been outcasts, too dangerous to trust. Now they were family, bound to their galactic neighbors by shared purpose and mutual respect. The galaxy was safer now, not just because of human military strength, but because all its peoples had learned to work together. The Void Swarm had tried to consume everything, but in defending against it, the galaxy had discovered something precious, unity born of shared struggle. And in the far reaches of space, where new threats might someday emerge, early warning beacons stood ready. They carried a simple message to any who might threaten the peace. This galaxy is protected. The Deathworlders watch. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but the galaxy had learned an important truth. Sometimes the most terrifying guardians make the most faithful protectors. Sometimes those who understand violence best are those most committed to peace. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or destroyers, but as the shield that stood between civilization and chaos. And the galaxy was stronger for it.